Do you actually need to join a pre-medical student organization? The answer is no, it's not an absolute necessity, but there's a couple of benefits and a couple of drawbacks you should be aware of if you're thinking about joining such an organization. Let's talk about the positives first. First off, these groups generally are involved with helping people amass the experiences they need to mount a compelling medical school application. So if you're in one of these organizations, AED, HOSA, Molding Doctors, these types of ones, then you might hear about opportunities you otherwise wouldn't have heard of, and that might be the way you get your shadowing or your volunteering or other extracurricular experiences. Second benefit is that they will often have opportunities for you to get involved in administration or leadership. And I separate the two because you might be in a role where you're administrating, where you're organizing, managing something. You may or may not actually learn how to lead. That depends more on you, and I want it to be very clear that not all administration is leadership and vice versa, but that might be a way you get exposed to that domain of stuff. Third benefit is it shows substantiated interest. You were interested, you explored it, you joined a group, you met other people who were interested, you networked, you found opportunities. That shows some initiative and seriousness about preparing for medical school itself. Which brings us to the downsides. Honestly, there aren't that many, and individual experience will vary, but probably the number one biggest downside is the contagion of pre-med anxiety. I work with a lot of people who heard from a friend, who heard from a friend, who heard from a med student that you absolutely have to use this or that resource, or you absolutely have to have this or that experience, or you have to have some ridiculous GPA or ridiculous MCAT score. And the conviction with which people hold these unrealistic beliefs are, frankly, oftentimes somewhat delusional. You'll get a lot of good information, but you'll also get that stuff too. So, if you're joining a pre-medical student organization, it's really important that that you have your wits about you. That you don't just take something as necessarily true because someone says it and then work yourself up into this anxiety that, oh, I don't do that, therefore I'm doomed. It's not true. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses and different paths. Keep a clear sense of your values and make decisions according to your values. Take in the information you're being given, but be thoughtful, be reasonable, and don't buy into every single thing that you hear. Finally, I want to be clear that you're not going to be stratified as a better or worse applicant based on if you were or weren't in a pre-med student organization. If you're just joining organizations because you want to have 30 student organizations on your application, that's not going to help. Whether you sat in the back of a room of a crowd you weren't engaged with is not going to make a big difference. If you join, make it a meaningful experience. Being in a group is more important than just being in a group. Follow my page for daily tips on how to become a doctor.